You remember the moment before the first bite, sitting at a small kitchen table, feet not quite touching the floor. A full plate waited, heavy with steam, and across from you, an adult watched quietly. No threats, no shouting, just an understanding. This meal would be finished. Back then, food wasn't about choice or pleasure. It was about respect, routine, and doing what was expected. Many of us grew up believing this was simply normal. Today, that certainty feels almost unbelievable, yet it shaped childhoods across Britain in ways we rarely stop to recall. Even now, those memories linger quietly. To understand why food felt non-negotiable, we have to step back into post-war Britain, where memories of ration books still hovered in kitchens long after they disappeared. Many parents had grown up counting ounces, saving scraps, and stretching meals to last. That experience never quite left them. Food meant security, not indulgence. Household budgets were tight, and families were larger. Every item on the plate had a purpose, and leaving it behind felt unthinkable. Wasting food was not merely impolite, it was treated as a moral failure, a sign of ingratitude toward effort, labor, and history itself. Children absorbed this lesson early, usually without explanation. Meals followed routine rather than preference. The same dishes appeared on the same days, week after week, offering predictability in an uncertain world. Eating what you were given was seen as part of growing up properly, learning resilience, and understanding fairness. Compare that to today, where meals are tailored, options are endless, and comfort often leads the conversation. Back then, food was fuel and fairness combined, and those values quietly shaped how a generation learned to sit, eat, and belong. Those habits lingered, passing silently from parent to child, plate to plate, year after year. Ask anyone who grew up in Britain then, and a smile usually appears, followed by a grimace. These were the meals people joke about now, but they were taken very seriously at the time. Thick stews, soft vegetables cooked until yielding, and puddings that arrived whether you wanted them or not. The smell filled the house long before tea time, impossible to escape. The ritual was always the same. You sat down, cut everything into manageable pieces, and worked steadily from one side of the plate to the other. Leaving food was not an option, and lingering was quietly discouraged. Plates stayed put until cleared. These dishes were never designed to impress. They were filling, affordable, and built to keep you going through school days and cold winters. Taste came second to purpose. Complaints were met with silence, raised eyebrows, or the reminder that plenty of others would be grateful. Today, we laugh about these meals with fond disbelief. Yet they taught us to eat what was there, waste nothing, and carry on. Long before choice entered the kitchen, endurance was already being served, one spoonful at a time, and that quiet discipline followed many of us into adulthood silently. Walking into the school dining hall felt like entering another world entirely. Long tables stretched across echoing rooms, benches already crowded, voices bouncing off high walls. The smell of warm food hit you before you reached the counter, and trays moved along with quiet efficiency. There were no choices, no questions. What you were given was what you ate. Meals were served quickly, almost briskly, and you learned to keep pace. Cutlery clattered, chairs scraped, and eyes glanced up now and then to see who was finishing first. Talking was low, eating was expected, and leaving food behind drew attention you didn't want. These dinners reinforced lessons learned at home. Food was communal, rules applied to everyone, and fairness mattered more than preference. You ate, you cleared your plate, and you moved on. Today, school meals are gentler, flexible, and full of options. Back then, they quietly taught lasting discipline. Some foods barely get mentioned now, yet they once appeared with quiet regularity. Meals shaped by habit rather than excitement arrived without comment, often tied to particular days or seasons. They weren't fashionable, and they weren't meant to be. They existed because they were practical, filling, and familiar. These dishes reflected a Britain focused on making do. Ingredients were chosen for value, not applause, and repetition was normal. Children learned the rhythm of them quickly, recognizing what was coming before it reached the table. There was comfort in that predictability, even when enthusiasm was lacking. Today, many of these foods have slipped away, replaced by variety and novelty. Ask younger generations about them, and you're often met with blank looks. Yet for decades, they were part of everyday life, quietly reinforcing ideas about thrift, routine, and modest expectations. They remind us how endurance, not enjoyment, once guided everyday British kitchens. Looking back now, it's easier to see what those meals were really doing. They weren't about punishment or unkindness, even if they felt stern at the time. They were lessons served quietly, day after day. Patience was learned by sitting still. Gratitude came from understanding effort. Resilience grew from finishing what you started. Those tables also brought people together. Families gathered, routines formed, and shared experiences unfolded in silence and conversation alike. Even the meals we dreaded became part of a collective memory, something siblings still laugh about years later. Of course, these habits shaped how many of us relate to food even now. Clearing plates, avoiding waste, eating without fuss. Some lessons stayed longer than others, but beneath it all was care. Parents were preparing children for a world they knew could be unforgiving. Food was one of the first ways they taught strength, stability, and belonging. Today, meals look very different. Choice sits where certainty once did, and comfort often leads the table. Children grow up with preferences encouraged, not tested, and food adapts to them rather than the other way round. Something has been gained in kindness and flexibility, but something has quietly slipped away too. The shared routines, the sameness, the lessons wrapped in ordinary meals. It leaves us wondering, gently and without judgment, what today's children would make of the food that once raised us.